Well, thank you very much for coming along today, everybody. It's really, really nice to see so many faces here at our event with Susannah Kate from Peppergoose Designs. Before we get started, I would just like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that we're meeting on today, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nations, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. So my name's Lorraine, I'm the creative director at Morrison Sons, and we are just really delighted to have Susannah Kate along with us. She's an amazing crochet designer. She's going to take us through her journey from enthusiastic crocheter to published designer. I've had the privilege of spending a few days with Susannah while she's been here in Sydney, and I'm just blown away by the amount of work that she puts into her designs, the thought, the consideration, the detail. And I mean, you've all been looking at them and saying yourselves today, they're just absolutely stunning. And the fact that they're size inclusive as well is just adds another wow factor. So we're delighted to have you here. Thanks for coming to Morrison Sons. And I will hand you over to Susannah.
I'm Susannah Kate. I'm an internationally recognised award-winning crochet designer with over 50 patterns published to my name. I've been designing for around 12 years and have been published in magazines in the US, the UK, the Netherlands, and I've missed somewhere here, Canada as well. I also self-publish my Peppergoose Designs on Ravelry, and I've got a few on Etsy as well. Now my patterns are geared for intermediate level crocheters and try to highlight what can be achieved with the regular crochet stitches used in unusual ways. And Morrison Sons have been generous today to invite me here to share my story with you and share some tips and tricks along the way of becoming a crochet designer. I'm probably best known for this design, the Sashiko Happy Coat. I published this pattern in 5 sizes during the Crochet Guild of America conference in July 2019, where I submitted it to the design competition, and it won a couple of awards. And then in March 2020 it featured as a make-along hosted in the Scheppjes international and Dutch Facebook groups, which is a fairly sizable lot of people. I have done 3 other crochet make-along events. The Beach Days Filet Tunic was also hosted in the Scheppjes international and Dutch Facebook groups. This pattern was originally published in Simply Crochet magazine as a tunic, which you can see in the middle there, in a thread weight fibre or yarn of cotton. And then I later re-released it as a self-published Peppergoose design, where I expanded the sizing from 5 sizes to 9 sizes, and I also graded it in 2 weights of yarn. So the t-shirt here is another variation I did, and the dress is another variation I did, but these are using a slightly heavier weight cotton, and the tunic was very fine, but not everybody wants to use a tiny, tiny hook to make garments, so I used a slightly heavy yarn and regraded it for that. So between the 3 options of t-shirt, tunic and dress, and the different yarn weights and 9 sizes, that's a lot of versatility for one pattern. My third make-along was the Ever-Change Sweater. I devised a double-sided fabric using regular crochet stitches that was really nice and stable in 2 directions to be able to create this top-down V-neck design. I've got a, swatch of it here, and it's got regularly spaced holes in the fabric, so it can be embellished with slip stitch crochet, which is also known as surface crochet. It can be worn as a wardrobe staple if you like, if it's made in a solid colour, or if it's in a gradient or colour change yarn, it can be quite a statement piece, and you've got the option of the slip stitch embroidery down the sleeve, which is a good option. Now, my Shelley sweater wrapped up just a few weeks ago as a crochet along. I hosted the Ever-Change Sweater and this design as well as in my own private Facebook group, which is called Peppergaggle. This top-down raglan, it features a scalloped trim on the hemline, of course, the textured bodice stitches, and I graded this one to 11 sizes. So you can see just over these 4 crochet along events, the range of sizes offered has become a lot more inclusive. Now, I designed this pattern in 3 different yarns as well, so makers from different parts of the world and with different budgets could actually see a bit of a yarn option that was still accessible to them. So once I'd achieved this level of size inclusivity, I'm now wanting to also address some yarn inclusivity, I'm calling it, as well. And so essentially I just tested this in the Sweet Georgia yarns and Life in the Long Grass, which is what I'm wearing. And then this is Morrison Sons Empire 4-ply yarn, and Julie here is also modelling a sample in Morrison Sons Empire. Now I really... 12. You can do a 12. And I really loved actually the Morrison & Sons Empire for its like handle, comfort, stitch definition, budget as well, and its froggability, which is important sometimes. You don't, it's somewhat hard to frog and you just want to scream. And also its amazing drape. So you can see in the photo there, the folding of the fabric, it really drapes really nicely if you have some ease packed into your size option. So my launch and wrap-up blogs or blog posts on my website show quite a range of sizes and yarn options of this design. So Pepper the Goose here is my logo. She's kind of doing a bit of a Fleetwood Mac, going her own way, wearing her red scarf, which of course is crocheted. And this brings me to what Peppergoose Design is all about. I believe making your own clothes with crochet is a great means to express yourself. As crafters, we are often giving away the creations that we make as an act of love to other people, and I particularly like in making crochet garments for ourselves, we can give ourselves that gift. I think that's actually quite a nice thing to do as well as give it to others. So my mission is to inspire and help others creatively express themselves by making crochet clothes that fit. And to do this, I produce detailed pattern PDFs to guide crocheters through making garments and accessories that are beautiful, functional, versatile and size inclusive. The Susannah Sweater was released a year ago and is a good example. It's a lacy pullover with empire bust feature and another sort of textured frilled hem, and this is another top-down design with a little button detail on the cuff placket there. Now the top-down construction for a few of these designs makes it really easy to try on as you go and adjust for length of bodice and sleeve. This one is graded from 9 sizes through to from extra small to 5XL, and that represents a bust circumference of around about 70 centimetres through to about 160 centimetres. These images show a small, medium and a 3XL. Now here is the pattern document for the Susannah Sweater, and this is typical of how I publish my patterns now as Peppergoose Design by Ravelry. It's 20 pages and filled with information about sizing, a schematic, instructions for making a swatch and how to check your gauge, full written instructions, and this is supplemented by photos and stitch charts throughout the pattern sequentially as you need them. And I also include relevant links to blogs that have tutorials for extra information when you're looking for a technique that isn't specifically described in there. Things like how to block your project after you've finished and make it look lovely. And for this pattern as well, actually there is a video link to demonstrate how to edge the cuff placket, and there's quite a few videos in this pattern too. So how did I get here? Through curiosity, competitive drive, and kind of the long and hard way. So this is my story, and I'm probably going to, I'm already emotional, can't avoid it. So my grandmother taught us many crafts, including crochet, which I learned at the age of 6. As a child and teenager, I loved anything that involved creating with my hands. So I loved drawing, crochet, other forms of needlecraft, and of course Lego. From age 11, I knew absolutely that when I grew up, I wanted to be an architect, to design homes for people to live in, because I would go to the library and pore over architecture books. I really enjoyed how colour and texture and light interplayed in a three-dimensional space. So I ended up a veterinary surgeon with a successful but all-consuming career as a high surgical load and in middle management, managing a corporate level clinic. So I had no time or energy for a creative outlet. So eventually, through stress and long hours in surgery, I suffered an overuse injury. And it's really a long time ago now, so I really shouldn't get emotional about it. But anyway, I suffered a nerve impingement injury and I lost the use entirely of my left arm. It was basically hot, painful and useless for 3 months, and it took a year to rehabilitate my arm and return to work function. And once I had done that, I decided that full-time work wasn't necessarily for me anymore and decided to go part-time instead. So a bit lost, I studied art for a while and then I fell into crochet. I decided to make this baby jacket, which is a 1950s Peyton's pattern for a friend of mine having a baby. Excuse me, I had just inherited my grandmother's patterns because she had passed, and while I crocheted I felt connected to her, but despite my grief I found myself thinking, how could I improve the shaping, the edging, how the pieces fit together, and that kind of took over, which was quite good. But my mathematical, spatial and style of artistic brain really kind of went into hyperdrive and I was obsessed. Essentially, I had becoming Pepper the Goose of my logo. I wanted to do my own thing, my own way, and I wanted to design some crochet clothes from scratch. I bought some stitch dictionaries, some DK merino. I experimented like a woman possessed, and after much frogging I produced some stiff and chunky children's clothes. Now the kids loved them, but the fabric kind of stood up on its own. I was learning how to engineer a garment with crochet and how the pieces fit together, and it was harder than I thought. But the search for good drape and optimised fit had begun. I had 3 goals. I wanted people to see my work and say, I didn't know crochet could do that. I wanted to get published, and I wanted to teach crochet on a cruise. I figured that I may not be able to quit my day job doing this, but if I was able to get a free cruise out of it by teaching crochet on a boat, well, hey, that would be pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I love it. Jenny King was my inspiration as well. I had read a magazine article where she had said after 15 years of hard work that she'd been discovered overnight, so I knew it could take quite some time to become well regarded enough to be able to be invited to be teaching on a cruise or even something like this here today. But I figured if she had done it, I could too. So I stumbled across a mention of the International Diploma of Crochet. Yes, it's a thing. So Pauline Turner runs this in the UK, and essentially you learn all about the different techniques in crochet. You have to do 40-something swatches of various techniques, which is the basic stitches as well as like Tunisian or hairpin lace or broomstick, a whole bunch of things. And that opened my eyes to a lot because I'd only done the very basic stitches until that point. But you also had to do 4 projects, like complete projects, one of which had to include shaping. And I decided to design a short sleeve cardigan. Here is a cardigan, and I've also got it here today. It's made with lace weight alpaca, as my quest for good drape began with a knee-jerk reaction to the stiffness and chunkiness of the DK. It features a double treble fan stitch, this is in UK terms, and it's got some hairpin lace here on the sleeve and a frilled trim around the neck. So soon after that, I discovered the Crochet Guild of America design competition, because the winning entry was on the cover of a magazine that I had in front of me, and it was modern and exciting and asymmetric and amazing. So I found my crochet people. I figured this is where I wanted to head. So I immediately Googled the Crochet Guild of America. I couldn't find any barriers to join from Australia, so I immediately joined, and when the design competition swung around, I thought, sure, I can submit my cardigan and see what happens. I imaginatively called it Frilly Alpaca Cardigan. This was 2013. I won 3rd in the fashion category, and it was game on. Wow. So, thank you. I now had a 4th goal. Win 1st in fashion. If I got 3rd on the first attempt, why not try for 1st? I had discovered that magazine editors attend the competition and conference to scout for new talent, and at the time I otherwise had no clue as to how to get published. There's a tip, there's actually much easier ways. But I kept submitting each year. So in 2014, I got an honourable mention for a lace weight silk sweater that I made for my mum. And in 2015, I submitted a lace weight tunic combining geometric patterns and shapes. I imaginatively called it Tunica Geometrica, and it won 2nd in fashion. Crochet magazine from Annie's Publishing approached me to write the pattern, and excited, of course, I said yes. And I have that here with me today as well, so you can take a closer look later. But I had absolutely no idea what I was getting myself into. I had made this to impress the judges and not given any thought to the practicalities of writing a pattern or making it fit other people. I had made a few notes, but that was it. Now I had agreed to calculate and write 4 sizes. That's what they specified, while maintaining the aesthetic. And by the way, at that time, I did not know that that was called grading. Tunica Geometrica is made of 7 different panels or sections, so made of 7 different sections. That's all joined together by slip stitch crochet, and it's a tiny hook around 2 millimeters in size. Now each section has different geometric patterns, and this chevron panel here that wraps around the bust and underarm that has to do all the shaping changes colour every 1 row, which means the colour change and where the carried yarn is on the wrong end for different sizes, and it was just this whole nightmare. And there's actually a hood there as well that inserts into the back, and it was a whole thing. So basically the complexity of the pattern was difficult, was I guess where I was getting to. So it took me about 4 months to write the pattern, then work with the tech editor to rewrite it and rewrite it to condense it down, because basically working in print, it's expensive. Essentially they don't want to take up more space than is absolutely necessary. And I had no idea then that magazines would very not invest this level of time into one design, because I was new, I had no idea at that time. But they must have really loved it, because when it was finally published, it made the cover. So yes, and I only discovered when I had no idea it was going to make the cover. They just published it and I found out Meanwhile, while I waited for Tunica to come out, I started publishing a few patterns on Ravelry, and you can see them here. One sleeve poncho and the post-apocalypse tee, which you can see on both sides there, inspired by The Matrix, one of my favourite movies, and some accessories as well. Now, in this phase, I was learning how to write a pattern. But my focus had changed. My first 2 goals had been achieved with Tunica Geometrica, so it was time for new goals. I wanted to win the grand prize across all categories, why not? So they have a big range of categories, and the actual prize across all categories is $1,000 US, and the exchange rate is heavily in our favour. So I thought I'd go for it. So in 2016, I submitted 3 entries, a lacy sweater that I later self-published, and I submitted 2 accessories as well, and I got absolutely nothing. No mention at all. I did not grab anybody's attention, but that was okay. In 2017, I was super busy building a house. So I really didn't have a lot of time for crochet, and I had made something for myself that summer in a green thread, very fine cotton, and it was a filet lace cardigan. It was a bit unconventional. I'd made it just for me. I didn't really think it was that, I didn't know it was that good, but I thought, well, I'll send it because I've got nothing else, and at least I will have participated. I sent it in. I imaginally called it Green Garden Filet Lace Cardigan. Evidently all of my imagination is taken up in the designing of said things, and my naming is really not that great. In any case, that didn't matter because it did win the grand prize. And it also won the technical merit, and I have that here today as well. Now, the only reason I found out was because the Facebook video announcing the winners was there, so I was sitting there in my new house on bare concrete, essentially, and I had to play that video back a couple of times to really make sure that, really? So that was pretty special. Simply Crochet magazine reached out to congratulate me on the win, and the creative director of Scheppjes yarn company, which is the Dutch yarn company, asked me if I'd like to publish the pattern with them. And excited, I said yes. So Scheppjes renamed it the Olga cardigan and specified 5 sizes, small through to 2XL. It was published in the Yarn 6 bookazine, which had the folk theme. And these are their photos here. Now, you would think I had kept better notes this time around, but I had just made it for myself, again in that just do it phase with a few little scribble bits. So no, again, I spent 4 months roughly turning myself inside out, calculating what each size needed while maintaining the aesthetic balance across the specified sizes and their specified size measurements, which is essentially graded. And write the pattern and draw the stitch charts. And these are fairly complex stitches around here to try and draw, so I ended up having to teach myself Adobe Illustrator as well to do the stitch charts. By the time the yarn arrived, I only had 2 weeks to make a whole cardigan with the new yarn, because the tip here really is that if you're working with a magazine publication, you really need to stick to their schedule. So by this time, I had discovered a less arduous way of getting published. Apparently, you can put yourself on an email list for a yarn company or a publisher, and then you can be notified when they're asking for patterns, and then you can make a pitch direct. So a lot simpler. And this is how I came to offer up my design to Sweet Georgia Yarns in Canada for a scarf made up of square spirals. They loved it, named it Festa Colorata. Pure coincidence. It sounds like Tunica Geometrica, but it was just how life was, and they published it in an ebook. I had completed that submission, but my mind kept returning to the conference and design competition, and I had 2 new goals. Number 1, fly to America and participate in the conference and see the event firsthand. And could I win a second grand prize back to back? Was it possible? I figured there was only one way to find out and give it a shot. So I went out dreaming big with my design concept. I crocheted again like a woman possessed, and I kept better notes. Yes. So this is my spider lace maxi dress. It is made with a thread weight mercerized cotton and a tiny hook, like 1.75 millimeters to about 2.2 millimeters. It is in this navy blue thread. I designed this spider lace panel and then as an insert into the V-neck, and at the centre of each of these motifs I've hand stitched in Swarovski crystals to catch the light. I don't know if you can see that well on the photo, but down here you can see that I also used the Swarovski crystals as buttons down the back of the garment, and the bodice is covered with sort of solid stitching, but you still need to line that, so I basically hand stitched silk georgette fabric into the panels to line everything and maintain the split, and then the lace up here is mirrored and replicated down in the skirt at a larger scale. and then of course through the straps. The creative director of Scheppjes, I met her face to face at the conference, which is great. She asked me if I would like to publish the pattern with them, and excited, I said no. Essentially, I had learnt my lesson. This is far more complex than the ones I had just done, and I knew what was going to go into writing that pattern, and there was just no way that I could service that with my skills at that time as well, to be fitted for more than maybe a couple of people, and so I said no. But we did talk about future commissions, which was good. We had a lot of work that we worked towards in the future. And I also met the Simply Crochet Editor-in-Chief, Sarah Huntington, as well. And it was by attending the conference and meeting these people face to face that really enabled like ongoing relationships with publishers, and for me to develop a presence online as well. So up to this point, I had been a social media and internet hermit. I hadn't been there at all, and I was about to hit a steep learning curve, because when I returned home, I started posting on socials and learnt how to design and publish my own website as well. So I did that a few months after I returned. Scheppjes and Simply Crochet magazine also kept me pretty busy. These are some of the designs featured in the Scheppjes Yarn bookazines, various publications, and I've got a couple of designs in their after party booklets too. And the Scheppjes have a wonderful range of yarns, and I'm fortunate and grateful for their support in helping me through developing my process, and also hosting my first 2 make-alongs as well, and opening my eyes to what is possible. And then Simply Crochet magazine, these are some of the patterns that have appeared in Simply Crochet magazine. These were the first ones that I submitted, and that's my most recent design there as well. And I'm similarly grateful to Simply Crochet for featuring my work, because between Scheppjes and Simply Crochet, I was learning how to become consistent in my writing style, how to reliably grade to 5 sizes, and discover new garment construction methods. So I'd experimented with like side to side, bottom up, additive, where you do a bit and add a bit round. Also with different sleeves, like a set-in sleeve, a cap sleeve, a drop shoulder sleeve, textured stitches, as well as join-as-you-go techniques to actually make garments too. And eventually I got my second cover. Sarah Huntington commissioned me to design a modern filet lace tunic for a feature that Simply Crochet was working on. I pulled everything together for the pattern and the charts and made the sample in 2 weeks, which I was really happy about. My efficiency was definitely improving. Lots of notes. I was feeling confident with my growing skills, and had won 2 grand prizes back to back and attended my first conference. So it was time for new goals. Could it be done? I figured the only time you can win 3 in a row is when you've got the first 2 down, so I thought, just do it now, have a go. I decided to submit 2 garments to the competition to increase my chances. Regardless, my real mission, I mean that may not pan out, but my real mission is this time to have a pattern ready at the time so I could launch it at the event. So, this brings us back to my Sashiko Happy Coat, which won 2nd in fashion and the Technical Merit Award. I did have the pattern ready. I had it graded 5 sizes, small through to 2XL. It had been tested and professionally tech edited, and when it launched, it went straight to #1 on Ravelry's Hot Right Now for a day, which is great. I was very thrilled. So, how did my other submission go? My blue willow dress won 1st in fashion and People's Choice. No trifecta. I missed out on that by ½ a point. But I had not at all anticipated the reaction to this dress, and you've all replicated it again now. Everybody wanted the pattern. Where's the pattern? Can I have the pattern? When's the pattern coming out? Will the pattern include me? Is my body size represented in that pattern? My Facebook post about this dress had a reach of over 150,000 people. It's been shared 415 times, and no pattern. I had designed this dress to impress, letting my creative instinct just run wild. And I had designed the coat to show what can be achieved by an intermediate level crocheter with regular stitches. I really wanted to inspire people to make crochet clothes for themselves, and I thought the coat would do that. And it did. It was quite popular, but a few followers commented on socials that my sizing range excluded many people that would have otherwise liked to have made the coat. And I considered this as a fair point, but at the time my grading and writing skills, that's the best I could offer, and grading is quite difficult, particularly for a set-in sleeve. There's the technical things that we can get to in the questions if you like about why that is the case, but that was really the best I could offer at the time. The same year, I also published these sweaters as self-published. It was Peppergoose Design in 5 sizes, small through to 2XL. We've got the daisy chain cardigan, the Rabbit Alice sweater is both the blue one and the white in the same pattern in a different fibre. And this is the Rhythm of Life alpaca sweater. And I also began to think of how I could expand the sizing for my Sashiko Happy Coat, because Scheppjes had invited me to do a make-along in their international and Dutch groups. And between those 2 groups, this represented around about 120,000 people that, you know, were potentially going to be offered to join the make-along. So I really wanted to be as inclusive as I possibly could. So in time for the make-along, I successfully increased the grading to 3XL and 4XL sizes, and then added them to the pattern as a size supplement. I had to add the supplement because the pattern had already been translated into Dutch and US terms, and I just had to add a PDF onto the listing. During the make-along, it was total madness. I made a whole 3rd coat that I experimented with a whole new fibre. So some people can't wear merino and I can only wear cotton, so I experimented with a blend of 2 yarns to create a tweed effect. I started a 4th coat with the yarn you see here on the right that I only just finished this year, but I started it during the make-along. I was writing and publishing blogs as I went to give makers guidance and tips and up-to-date, you know, how my project is going. I started a whole new Etsy shop because a lot of people didn't seem to want to go through PayPal as a payment gateway, so Etsy provided an alternative thing, so I had to start that just for the coat. And I was spending a few hours each day answering questions in the groups, of course, helping people directly with their projects as they were going along. And here's a tip, this is an unnecessarily difficult way to run a make-along. But it was a fabulous experience and I learnt a heap. And the next slide shows the cotton tweed version that I experimented with to make during the make-along and published as a different design. So it's essentially the same shape and embellished in different ways, and it's even got a little placket across the back, like you get in coats as well, that replicates this sort of pattern. So this is the Bessie Alice tweed, and I named it after my grandmother. We have almost arrived at where we are now, or where I am now. There's still no free cruise. Anyway, it was around this time I started my pattern support group, Peppergoose, and of course set myself some new goals. This time my goals are a bit more grounded. So I wanted to improve grading skills, improve detail and structure of my self-published patterns, and achieve size inclusivity. So far I'd achieved everything by doing it the hard way, reinventing the wheel, following my own logic and imagination, and it was time to learn from others. So I did a grading course recommended to me by Tatiana of Lillborn Crochet, and that was Sizing Knitwear Patterns by Faina Goberstein. I found another grading course online, which was Pattern Grading Masterclass, which is on the Tech Editor Hub. And in doing these, I kind of actually learned I was already doing a pretty good job of that, but I did learn some Excel spreadsheet tips with my designing, particularly when you've got so many sizes to keep track of. And also insights into the development of the commercial clothing industry and sizing, how sizing came to be. It was very interesting. I enjoyed a Knit Stars course where Jacqueline Cieslak discussed measuring the body and also size inclusivity. I studied Ysolda's size chart, which is a free download. She's a knitwear designer, which was interesting because different size charts actually assume different things. And I researched sizing information from commercial manufacturing sites as well. So this learning enabled my 3 more recent designs, and these are the ones I'm most proud of. So they're all graded to 9 or 11 sizes and with detailed pattern information. And here you see the Everchange, which is here and at the bottom edges here. And up here too. The Susannah Sweater, which is here and here, and the Shelley Sweater, which is the textured bodice. I am now capable of designing the kinds of clothes that I dreamed of in the beginning, grade them so many people can enjoy them, and the clothes no longer stand up on their own. I find the designs that come basically just from within me and not to someone else's design brief are the ones that I enjoy the best and that other people respond to the most. And what I want from my makers is what I want for myself. Express yourself, fashion crochet that fits. And I mean fashion both as the verb and the noun. So the past 12 years has been my apprenticeship really. Because I started out without preconceived ideas on how things should be done, I discovered different ways of doing things and came up with novel solutions to fitting the body and with different construction methods. And From here, I'm just going to basically follow my creative instinct and my drive for when I'm producing designs and continue to help or develop resources to help makers guide them through patterns. Now, so far, this has really been through my detailed patterns, Crochet Along, and recently workshops as well. And I'd really love to actually publish a book on, garment making to really help people hone their skills there. So that might be in the works with any luck. So before I go, what are all the steps I take to publish a pattern? Now, the first rule of PowerPoint is don't overload the slide. Don't clutter up with stuff. Now, I'm actually deliberately breaking that rule entirely to share all the steps. So, choose appropriate fibre and main stitch pattern. Swatch and block it. I might do that a few times over to actually select the right drape and performing the way I like it. I calculate requirements for each size while maintaining the integrity of the design proportions, which is grading it. I write the draft pattern, crochet and block the sample garment, collect photos during the project, and when finished, draw stitch charts, schematics, and fill in the measurements charts. Post-process the photos, so they've got to be small enough to fit into the actual document, and insert them into the pattern. Format the pattern document, making sure everything's wherever you need it, and test the pattern, revise, edit, and proofread the pattern. I often make a second or sometimes a third sample as part of that testing process too. Once finalised, translate into US terms, take model photos, publish the pattern, launch the pattern on social media and blog, manage a website and social media accounts to promote the pattern, provide a pattern support community to makers, and rinse and repeat. I offer both UK terms and US terms. Some of them are Dutch as well, a few other languages, but I provide I write in UK terms, and then I also provide the US terms. And there's separate PDFs that are downloaded essentially. Or some of my earlier patterns, there might be a conversion chart at the end of the UK pattern. This is what I hope you might take away from my presentation. Good garment design allows flexibility to accommodate the human body. Grading and size inclusivity matters, which is why I design with grading in mind from the beginning now instead of doing it retrospectively after the event. Appreciate what goes into designing, publishing and selling patterns. This goes for most makers and budding designers, if there are some here. If you want to design, there's a lot to learn. And if you're a maker, there's a lot of value packed into that pattern, both for making the garment and also educating yourself for future. And so we've got some tips for makers. Buy, trust and follow the pattern. Results are always most reliable if you use the recommended yarn and swatch to match gauge before you start. And every word on that page of that pattern has been carefully considered. So read the pattern and try that first. Learn and build skills with each pattern project. Start with simple shaped garments that include some ease and then try more fitted and complex patterns as your skills progress. Observe copyright. The designer doesn't deserve to have their work given away for free. Word of mouth to promote the designer. This is so important if you love their work and want them to be around in the future. So share your project with friends in person and online. And when sharing online, tag the designer and ideally use the hashtag for the pattern name so other people can find it and it respects the designer's work. Budding designer tips. Now the path I took was meandering at best, kind of stumbling from one thing to the next and just following my curiosity. But if you are wanting to become a designer, this is my suggested perhaps more direct route. Study crochet techniques and hone your skills. Make friends with the frog and the chicken. Learn to follow patterns and observe how everything goes together. Be a tester and observe different styles and approaches. Take grading and tech editing courses. Self-publish, pitch to publishers via their email lists, and just have a go. But if all else fails, buy and enjoy the patterns that are already out there and actively promote the designers you love. I hope you enjoy my story and feel inspired to make something for yourself. You can follow me if you like on Instagram as Peppergoose or Facebook as Peppergoose, and I'm peppergoose.design on the web. And if you have any questions, I am happy to answer.
I have a question. The blue willow dress.
Yes.
So tell me what happened. So have you written the pattern for that?
I've got it here today to change into after I finish, if you like.
Oh, have you? Oh, okay.
But
is that a yes or a no?
the pattern does not exist. I have more extensive notes for this one. Essentially, the thing that's held me back from these more complex dress designs in publication is, well, breasts. So it sounds like an unfortunate thing to say, but to be size inclusive, I need to accommodate different bust shapes and sizes and actually fit the body well in that area. It can't be like lots of positive ease. I also need to engineer the garment so it takes the weight of the dress for all sizes. And then of course you've got bra straps that for the smaller sizes of bust may do okay with the push-up and they don't really mind about the whole strap business is the thing. But then obviously I've got to engineer different sleeves or perhaps a whole sleeve design that helps to actually cover the bra strap and give that option as well while still maintaining the design aesthetic. So to do all of that, there's no way I could have actually published them at that time because my skills weren't up to it. My skills are up to it now, and I'm excited to plan for that hopefully in the future, but it's actually a matter of time and network support, I suppose, to help make it happen.
So maybe by the time you've got that pattern out, I might be crocheting.
Absolutely. You have time to go from 0 to garments. and I say 0 because you said before that you didn't crochet, so I just want to, I'm not being mean here. We had a chat earlier.
That's setting a challenge. Like that's a goal. Wow.
But look, from 0 to garments is totally possible. It is, yeah. A bit of scarf and then a bit of a poncho and then a... So yes, there's a lot involved, and I also would have I've got to find people that are skilled and willing to test that and be willing to frog as part of that test sometimes when things aren't going right. And the blue willow dress, I actually did specifically design something that didn't need hand-stitched panels in the breast area, because the spider lace maxi dress requires a seamstress to line in different panels. So someone might be skilled enough to make the dress, but then they'll only want to wear it one place, and that's in private, unless it is lined. But what I did do, because of that, is I designed the spider lace bag. So depending on the size or weight of yarn that you use, it turns out different sizes. There's a little pocket on the back, and it's all fabric lined. And my pattern includes instructions and photos how to actually do the sewing as well as the crochet. And you've got the hand stitching there, but so it's kind of like, if I ever publish the pattern, this will be my if you can do this, you can be part of the testing team. But in the meantime, it's really just...
That's a great little project to start with, isn't it? For anyone who's just sort of got the hang of crochet and are looking for...
But this is it's a complex thing to do. But it is at least a small project that you can give yourself a challenge. Yeah. And if it doesn't work out, or you can do it a few times, it's a small investment of cost of yarn.
And what yarn would you suggest to do that in, say, out of our store?
Well, actually, the show pull, if there is a solid, but basically...
It's 100% cotton.
Yeah, it's a mercerised cotton. The mercerised cotton has excellent colour fast and has that slight sheen to it as well. So it's really durable.
This is beautiful yarn.
So yes, that's why I did this pattern instead. But the blue willow dress, that bodice doesn't require lining. So really you run into your skirt, which is in fact why I'm wearing my underskirt, so I can put the dress on and have the underskirt. There.
Can I ask a question? At the end there, one of the tips was, sorry, I'm just going to go back, make friends with the frog and the chicken. I don't understand.
Oh, okay. Okay, so, well, chicken, if you're playing chicken on something else, you're having sort of, I guess, facing off with impending disaster, if you like. And yarn chicken is when you're going to be running out of yarn before the end of the round or the row or whatever. So basically, sometimes that happens. Ultimately, here's a tip: weighing your swatch that you of course make before you start the garment project helps you get an idea of how much yarn weighs and how much you need left, and you can weigh what's left to combat that. But yes, that's what yarn chicken. Ooh, light bulb moment.
It's all those little steps, right, that people sometimes go, oh, I'm not bothering.
Unfortunately, making garments is pretty well like painting a wall. And it only looks really great in the end if you've done the preparation steps. Like if you understand the preparation steps and get all that sorted first and then dive in, then it's going to go.
This was the first time I ever did a swatch, and if I didn't do it, it wouldn't have fit me because I had to go down a hook size.
Yes,
so
and
exactly how you said, swatched, blocked the swatch, did the whole thing, measured, put it up so you could tell me if it was okay, and I had to drop a hook size, otherwise it wouldn't have been any good.
And you did some frogging mid-project to make sure it fit.
Lots of frogging because I wouldn't have been happy. And I even discovered a mistake and had to undo like this much, but I wasn't going to. And then I kept looking at it. I was like, no, I'm not going to be happy unless I go back and fix it.
Can I ask what frogging is?
So yes, that brings us back to the frogging. So frogging is ripping it out. So you rip it, rip it, rip it, rip it. Yes. So frogging is undoing, yeah. So essentially that's part of it too. If you're going, it has to be perfect the first time. I don't know there's that many skills in life where you expect to actually go, I'm going to do this first time, it's going to be magic. So this is just another thing. And if you haven't made mistakes to frog it, well, you haven't actually learnt anything either. If you could actually sit down and go, I've just done this perfectly from the get-go, well, you might have ended up with a lovely top, that's great, but you haven't actually furthered your skills or learnt anything. So actually frogging is part of it. And also having that willingness to frog enables you to actually be happy with the end garment at the end. And if it's a top-down design, often you might get to say here and you can try it on and you're like, oh, the underarm's a bit bunchy or a bit low or a bit gapey or something, or I want it to be whatever. And so then you can just frog back and redo that little bit and you're set.
Change the whole pattern and skip the bridge completely.
Yeah. So that converts frustration to success. So that's really good. So that's what the frog and the chicken means.
Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I know what grading is.
Okay, so grading is really taking
What was sizing?
they're quite different.
Yes.
Okay, so a sizing chart and sizing is attributing different body measurements to different labels, which could be small, extra small, or it could be 1, 2, 3, or it could be banana, purple. It's random labels, but they're attributing groups of body measurements, and they're saying a sizing chart is a certain thing. So it might represent a certain shape, which is an hourglass or a whatever, but that is a sizing chart. And then grading is calculating all the stitches, different stitch counts and different row counts for the instructions to follow. That will end up with a garment that falls into those size categories.
So it's very design.
So grading it is basically going, different sizes will need to do different stitches and different row counts to come up with a pattern that looks like that aesthetic across the whole thing, like in a balanced way. You haven't sort of suddenly got a flower that's this big on the smaller size and stays tiny on a bigger size. It needs to be balanced across the proportions. So you've got to figure that out across different body dimensions, but those body dimensions are determined by the sizing chart that is given to you by the publisher or one you designed yourself. And a large part of my challenge as a designer, which I eventually got to in the end, was understanding how the limitations of what the size charts are actually telling me in the first place to achieve good fit. And customising the way I want to do that for myself for my own special sauce sizing.
Do you have a sizing chart on your website?
No, that is my secret.
Oh, okay.
Basically, that is, I have my sizing chart to what I design to, and that's what I choose to do, and achieve good fit with what I'm doing with that, and then the pattern information to help people do custom fit notes as well. So that's the other thing I put in there is might go, here's my graded sizes, and each one has a different set of instructions to follow. But then along the way, say for this one, you might get down to the sleeve and go, well, if you need to further reduce the cuff size, then this is the round to do it, and do it by doing it this way, sort of thing. So there's a few things like that thrown in. So if anyone wants to take a photo, I guess now with the Shelly, that's fine, and then I will go and freshen up and put the dress on.
Yeah.